Pregame.com.
All right, we have my most overrated team in college basketball heading into the NCAA tournament. This is Brad Powers in the Pregame.com studios just off the Vegas Strip. March Madness is finally here in the NCAA tournament, and I got a team you want to be very careful with if you're automatically going to put them in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
The madness is upon us, and you have isolated one key pretender. Who is it?
It's the Florida Gators out of the SEC. That's right, my most overrated team, Florida. And why are they overrated? Well, let's, for starters, talk about them not having a go-to player at the end of a game situation. In fact, if you look at their entire season, they are just 1-7 against the spread in games decided by 5 points or less. And what happens this time of the year? You get extra pressure. You get more close games because of elite-level competition. And while Florida has a lot of good players, in fact, they have 8 players that average between 6 and 14 points per game, they don't have that go-to guy that you need to make a crucial shot if you want to advance in the tournament. That's why I think Florida's overrated.
They've had close game problems all year long, and you could make the case that that problem is only getting worse.
It is. You look at a couple of their last road games at Kentucky. We did a video on it. We took Kentucky like -6 or -7. Well, Florida was winning the game outright in the second half. What happens? Florida collapses. They lose by 10. I'm very happy. We're all happy here at Pregame. We cashed a ticket. Then, the final week of the regular season, they got an opportunity at least to share the SEC regular season conference championship. They are up 9 on the road at Vanderbilt. Again, collapse. They got 5 players. They're just passing around. I don't want the ball. You want the ball? I don't want the ball. And what happens? They lose outright by 2 against Vanderbilt.
It's one thing to collapse at Kentucky. It's another thing to go to Vanderbilt. I know they got the tricked up floor that's like at a higher level, but they're used to it. You cannot collapse down the stretch at Vandy. We did, in that video, we talked about Florida center being out and that having an impact. It sounds like it's having an even bigger impact than maybe we thought.
Yeah, 6'11" centers just don't grow on trees, and his name's Egabunu. And what's happened here recently, Florida was a dominant team. They had won and covered 8 straight games. Well, last 7 games, they're 3-4 against the number. And I talk about them not making a key play offensively down the stretch in close games. Well, they're not making defensive stops either, Fez. Elite defensive teams in the country, and Florida's graded like one according to KenPom. They are not allowing 30 points to one single player in one single half of basketball like they did to Malik Monk in Kentucky.
That's 30 times 2 would be 60 points. There's some teams that don't score that the entire game. Your second key handicap.
Second key handicap, let's talk about this Florida team against good teams this season. In fact, in my current power ratings, which I post each and every Tuesday and Friday in the Pregame.com forums, they only have 1 single win over teams in my current top 25. So this is a Florida team that's been feasting on soft competition this year and hasn't faced a lot of elite level teams. Well, guess what, Fez? When it comes to the NCAA tournament, they're going to be facing some good teams.
Now, they did face some elite level teams early in the year. KenPom has them in top 15 in their strength of schedule. But I have a bone to pick with this because I don't think you should be rewarded so much just by playing really good teams. You really should be able to beat one of them, right?
No question about it. They went out, they scheduled, kudos to them. They scheduled Gonzaga, they scheduled Florida State, they lost to Duke. Bad news is they lost all 3 games. And plus, you look at this team, I think their strength of schedule is inflated because their conference as a whole is overrated. They face a lot of teams like Arkansas. That's a 20-plus win team that wouldn't be if they were playing in a different conference. And let's one more time talk my power ratings. The SEC has only 2 teams in my top 25. They only have 5 teams in my top 50. Compare that to the ACC, 11 teams in my top 50. The Big Ten, for Pete's sake. They have 8 teams in my top 50, and the Big Ten's been just scrutinized considerably by the national media.
The god-awful Big Ten that were like cutting in line to fade all these teams in the tournament, and they are still significantly better than this SEC. I like where you're going. Let's make it official.
Yeah, let's make this official. My most overrated team, Florida. First and foremost, they struggle in close games, and they're going to see a lot of them this time of the year. The Gators 1-7 against the spread in games decided by 5 points or less. Why? They don't have that go-to player. And plus, this is a Florida team that's really struggled against good teams. In fact, they only have 1 win over a top 25 team in my current power ratings, and when they faced elite-level teams in non-conference action, they lost. Add it all up, and don't be surprised if Florida isn't packing their bags early when it comes to NCAA tournament time. And we'll have more videos at pregame.com.